Run it back, nation. What is good, Sicko Nation? What is good? Thanks for being here. Give me 1 billion likes on this video. 1 billion. Okay, that's the goal. Listen, first bit of information here. Okay, injury report for tonight against the Detroit Pistons. Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, Kyle Lowry, and Tobias Harris are questionable. So Joel sat out the Spurs game with injury recovery, which again, I don't know. I think the goal here is to get him conditioned, so I'm not quite sure what the point is of him sitting out any of these games are. Tyrese Maxey, they keep listing him questionable with the hip. I don't really understand that unless it's just the Sixers trying to keep it there to have a reason if they decide to rest him. I don't understand the hip thing with Tyrese Maxey. I don't remember him getting hurt. He just dropped 52 against the Spurs in a double overtime game, so he seems to be 100% healthy, I would say. Kyle Lowry, knee, again, they rested him on the back-to-back. I think these are made-up injuries. I don't think Kyle Lowry's injured either. Tobias Harris with the knee is still questionable for tonight's game, against the Detroit Pistons. That's an interesting one because if Tobias Harris comes back before the playoffs start, his performance and what he does in one of these, in some of these couple of last regular season games is very interesting because the Sixers, as many of us predicted, look absolutely fluid and without missing a player. They look like they're not missing an important player without Tobias Harris. It'll be interesting to see, what he looks like when he comes back, how they run it. I like the rotations right now. I like the starting lineup. I loved Ricky Council coming off the bench last game. We will see, but there is the injury report for tonight's game. And the most important thing we got to talk about is the standings and what it looks like tonight with all of the games that are going down. Okay, so shout out my guy Jacob Moreno on Instagram, owner of Sixer Country. Jacob Moreno on Twitter, owner of Sixer Country on Instagram, and writes for Liberty Line. Tonight, Indiana plays Toronto, and Miami plays Atlanta. If both teams were to lose, Philly would still be in the 7th place, assuming the Sixers win, because Indiana has the tiebreaker. So we were talking about this the other day. Can the Sixers get the 6th seed from Indiana? I was saying if Indiana loses both games and the Sixers win both games, they would still be tied, and I don't know who has the tiebreaker. So Jacob tells us right here that Indiana actually owns the tiebreaker. So the Sixers can no longer pass the Indiana Pacers for the 6th seed. Tonight, Indiana plays Toronto, who is one of the worst teams in the league, haven't been playing really anybody, and haven't seemed like they've been trying to win. Although a couple nights ago, they did play RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley and those guys, and they did beat the Milwaukee Bucks, who have been absolutely crumbling under Doc Rivers, which is another hilarious NBA story. So it'll be interesting to see, who plays for Toronto tonight against Indiana. Miami plays Atlanta. I don't understand the Trae Young thing right now. He's been out, and Atlanta has been having some ups and downs. They've been having some ups when DeJounte Murray decides to go off for 40-plus points, but I just wouldn't expect Miami to lose to Atlanta either. But if both teams were to lose, we would be in the 7th seed, and the Heat losing is the most important, as Philly would get a 1-game cushion for the 7th seed. So, yeah, the 7th seed is what we want at this point if the 6th seed is out of reach, because the 7th seed gets you home court advantage in the play-in tournament. And if you're talking about a one-off game and you're playing the Miami Heat in a one-off game in the play-in tournament, you'll want that home court advantage. Here is the standings. Something else that's interesting here I'll talk about in a second, but here's the standings. You see Sixers and Heat in the 7th and 8th seed. We're in the 7th seed right now. If we win tonight and Miami loses, we would have an entire game and a half cushion in the 7th seed, so it will be looking real nice for us to have that 7th seed going into that play-in game. And then, if you win that first play-in game against Miami, you would Possibly. I don't know. The Bucks keep losing. If you win, if you come into the playoffs in the 7th seed, you would possibly be playing Doc Rivers and the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round. But if they keep losing and Orlando keeps winning, you might be playing Orlando in the first round. And I have a good feeling going into either of those series. Now, another interesting thing here is the Cleveland Cavaliers have been collapsing also. The Cleveland Cavaliers are only one game ahead of Indiana in the 5th seed and 2 games ahead of the Philadelphia 76ers in the 5th seed. If Cleveland keeps losing and the Sixers win out, the Sixers could actually end up in the 6th seed by the Cleveland Cavaliers falling into the play-in tournament. Because if we end up tied with the Cavs for the 6th seed, we own the tiebreaker. So that is a way that the Sixers still could end up in the 6th seed and avoid the play-in tournament, is if the Cleveland Cavaliers continue to lose and we win out. Let's look at the Cleveland Cavaliers schedule here and what games they have remaining. So they have Memphis, and then they actually play Indiana on Friday, and then they have Charlotte. Now, Memphis, at least against the Sixers a couple of nights ago, wasn't even a G League team. I mean, like I said, that was a YMCA team. There was a couple of guys in there that are on the dance team and that are on the halftime trampoline show. So I don't expect much from the Memphis Grizzlies at beating anybody, although they did beat the Bucks last week. The Bucks can't beat anybody in the NBA right now. It's hilarious. Then they do play Indiana and Charlotte. You know, they got some talent there. I would say they're better than the Memphis Grizzlies right now, but, you know, you would have to hope that the Cleveland Cavaliers keep losing, but they lost to Phoenix, Lakers, and Clippers, so those teams aren't exactly tanking. So they do have a relatively easy schedule the last 3 games outside of Indiana. So, you know, but you need them to lose 2. So you need the Cavs to lose to Indiana, which could happen, and you need them to lose to either Charlotte or Memphis, which is probably a long shot right now. But if that does happen, if that would happen, if Cleveland would lose to either Charlotte or Memphis and the Sixers continue to win, they would be tied with Cleveland, who would then fall to the 6th seed, and we own the tiebreaker. So Cleveland would be in the play-in tournament against the Miami Heat if they lose 2 of 3 and the Sixers win out. I think. I think they would have to lose all 3. If they're 2 games ahead of us right now, they would need to lose 2 of 3, and we would need to win all 3. Yeah, that would put us tied with them in the 6th seed. So that's, you know, how that could happen. Also, I mean, if Indiana loses, Indiana's only a game ahead of us. If they lose 2 of the next 3 and we win 3, we could jump them in the 6th seed. Let's look at Indiana's schedule, man. And if I'm wrong about any of this, feel free to let me know in the comments. Call me an idiot. It is what it is. I've been called it before. I've never been wrong, but I have been called an idiot plenty of times. Yeah, Pacers have Toronto, Cleveland, and Atlanta. So if we would get lucky somehow and the Pacers would lose all 3 of these and we would win all 3 of these, it's possible, but I wouldn't bet on that happening either. So yeah, there you have it. That's what needs to happen. There is still a way for the Sixers to enter the playoffs as the 6th seed. You would need Cleveland to lose out or Indiana to lose out, and we would need to win out. All of these are a long shot, however. The most realistic thing here is that we win and Miami loses a couple and we get a bigger cushion for the 7th seed to have home court advantage in the play-in tournament. And keep an eye on Milwaukee, because it would just be so funny if they continue to lose and Orlando jumps them for the 2nd seed in the East. The Knicks are right there also tied with Orlando. The New York Knicks could end up in the 2nd seed. That would be a disaster. If the Knicks get healthy and the Sixers come out of the play-in tournament, you also could end up playing the New York Knicks in that first round. And I do not want to see a healthy New York Knicks in the first round of the NBA playoffs. Give me the schedule. The Bucks have Orlando, OKC. The Bucks have the Celtics tonight. Orlando, OKC, Orlando again. So the Bucks have a tough schedule to finish out. They could lose out. Bucks could very well lose out. And some people are claiming that the Bucks are actually tanking to avoid the Sixers in the first round, which is funny. I don't know if that is true or not. I wouldn't bet on that being true, but really, I mean, look at the whole East: 15, 16, 16, 16 and a half, 17 and a half, 18 and a half. It's crazy that from the second seed to the seventh seed is only a 3.5 game difference. That's pretty wild. Yeah, I'll see you guys tonight on Playback TV. We'll be watching Sixers versus, who the hell are we even playing tonight, man? Why did I forget it? Detroit Pistons, yes. And then we have Orlando, and then we have Brooklyn. The Orlando game I'm very interested in because I don't know how good Orlando is, man, but they've been surging. They've been playing good ball. Paolo Banchero leading them, and they got a lot of nice young talent, a lot of good role players. So, yeah, join us tonight on Playback TV for Sixers versus Detroit Pistons. Maybe Joel plays and goes for an 85 piece against that terrible team. We will see. That's all I got, man. Hit the like button. Let me know something in the comments. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.